How do you start doing this work and not feel bad? How do you get someone to say, I want to go on my DEI journey. I want to be a better ally. I want to do this, but like it brings up a lot of feelings and emotions.
That is very, very multi-layered. Well, I will say if someone is battling with having thoughts that they know are not great and trying to navigate the guilt of learning more, I would say that you have to let those thoughts come and you have to sit with them and you have to let them go. And I think something that I've learned from some of my mentors and coaches is that when bad thoughts come or things come that you know are not proper, you have to honor them because they're yours. And then when you know more, you realize that you can let those things go. So I think we get wrapped up in, oh my gosh, I had this really bad thought, or I can't believe I thought that about this person. And then we stay there instead of saying, okay, I feel this. I learned this. I didn't know any better when I learned this. Now I know better. And now I can pivot to thinking about things a little bit differently. And so when you talk about the guilt of learning more, that guilt should be temporary. You should find some solace in knowing that you're learning more, and that knowing that you're learning more means that you are being more positive to the community around you and your sphere of influence. And like I say with our group all the time, no one is expecting anyone to be an expert or to learn everything on day one. And I think it's human nature to feel like, okay, I learned this new thing. Now I need to hurry up and get to the next level, and the next level, and the next level. And this is a lifelong process because unfortunately we've all marinated in systems that are not equitable. So there's going to be a lot of things we have to unlearn, and there's going to be something new we learn every day, and we just have to accept it and not beat ourselves up about it when we make a mistake. That's the biggest thing, that you can't let discomfort make you stop the process. That's really the enemy of progress. The other side of that is that people that represent underrepresented communities have a whole nother understanding of that, where it is not so much the learning more is causing the discomfort, but the discomfort with the pace by which other people are learning. And you kind of have to wait and be patient. And not that you have to wait, but there's a discomfort there. So it's on all sides. Everyone is feeling discomfort basically. And we have to sit with it, let it pass, and just kind of keep staying positive moving forward.
I really like that. How can organizations do a better job of supporting people?
I think organizations should start by asking people how they feel. I think that's always the first step. Anytime we do any DEI programming for clients, is that we do an audit. We ask people, what's it really like to work here? And I think that companies make a misstep when they only survey or only ask people who've had one type of experience. And they don't really take a moment to look at the data, to look at what people are experiencing. If you don't know what people are experiencing at work or what their home life is like, and not in too much detail, but what they bring into work, if you don't know that, then you don't know what kind of policies you need. You don't know what kind of remedy you need. So I think that's a misstep that companies make, that they say, well, everyone seems happy here. We don't have any blowups and we don't have anything crazy going on. So we're fine. And that's usually not the case. Like we talked about with cognitive bias, is that compartmentalization, that a lot of times when people come to work, they expect microaggressions, they expect the dysfunction, they expect the inequity. And so they come to expect that these companies aren't going to do anything about it. And so that also kind of contributes to how you draw data, because if people say, yeah, everything's fine, that doesn't always mean everything's fine. That may mean everything's fine because I know how this is and I know that this isn't going to change. So it's a little bit of a nuanced thing, but I think what companies can start by doing is asking what people think and really making their intention on, we want to improve, we want to make this better. We realize we're not perfect. The humility piece is very big with companies also, especially when you get to larger companies. There's kind of a, we don't need to focus on that. We're not that kind of company, but everyone is that kind of company because every company is made up of people. So I think that's a really big part, to start with the intention of, what do we need to work on specifically for us?
You're the head of DEI for our company. Now, how did you get here? How did you navigate that path?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'd say that my path to this place is probably going to look differently for people that are just now starting, only because there's a lot more opportunities, there's a lot more language, there's a lot more funding. That's a big one. But I think for me, I have always done this work regardless of what position I've been in, and regardless of what title it has been. So I've always worked in HR, and HR has always had an element of DEI, though it has not been really specified. And I think for my path, like I said, I've always done this. And what really I think boosted my confidence and my understanding and my expertise around this is having a 9 to 5 and doing consulting on the side. If I worked at a company that was not allowing me to contribute in this way, I would find a way to do it somewhere else. And so that's why I say my path may look a little different, because when I was starting out, there wasn't a role for this at a company. There wasn't a lead DEI. There may have been, but much fewer than we see now. And that's how I learned. I taught myself. I learned through trial and error. I started working with clients that didn't pay me at first. And I started to learn how we can make an impact in organizations. And I would say to anyone wanting to start out in this field, do a lot of reading, pay attention, try to join as many podcasts or webinars or anything that you can think of on any of these topics, because it's such a needed field. And especially for people of color and for women, you would think that lived experience really contributes to the expertise in this field, and it does. But I was so shocked to understand that many of the DEI leaders in America are white and male. And that's not to say they're not effective or they're not, really helping their communities and their companies. But I found that interesting that this is a field that where you need the lived experience, it's still sort of imbalanced. I would say to anyone starting out in this field, do a lot of reading, figure out what your specialty is, figure out what kind of impact you want to make, because there's a lot of opportunities out there that weren't there before.
If someone came to you and said, top 3 resources if I want to start learning about DEI, my go-tos for baseline learning, if I'm just getting my toes in the water and I really need a good foundation.
That's a really good question. I would say it depends on who's asking me. I would say for me, and this may sound a little bit weird, I would say read as much James Baldwin as you can, read as much Toni Morrison as you can, and find a way to figure out what your worldview is and what you think should change. And that's going to look differently depending on who I'm talking to. But I would say start with writers who have been talking about this for a while. Listen to the communities that have been talking about this for a while. Listen to the leaders who have already made headway. I think a lot of times people make the mistake of, if I'm going to be in it, I need to lead it. And I think one of the most beneficial things for me in the beginning of my career in this was I listened a lot. I would go to things and I would not ask any questions. I would just listen and I would observe. And that really helped me a lot. So, yeah, I would say do as much reading as you can on the topics that you don't understand. Put yourself in situations that make you really uncomfortable by challenging the things that you thought were true that maybe aren't, and figure out where you want to make an impact. Because I think what's interesting about where my career has taken me, I've always worked sort of in the startup biotech space. And that's really a rigid space for this kind of work. So it depends on the industry that you're in, depends on if you're working in a school and you want to do this with students. So it kind of depends on the atmosphere. It depends on a lot of factors. But I would say start reading some of the people that have been doing this work for a long time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can put a couple links in there too and
Sure.
direct people. All right, Jen. Well, we have covered a lot of ground here. I think we have a really good foundation for moving forward, delving into some topics. I mean, we could chat for hours, but we'll keep it short for YouTube this time. Please feel free to leave a comment, send us an email if you need additional help, support, clarity, and we'll let you know when the next one drops. Jen, thank you again so much for all your time.
Awesome. Thank you.